Okay, well, welcome everyone. My name is Mary Eleanor Power, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for Dalhousie University's College of Continuing Education. And I'm delighted to welcome you to today's webinar, Certified Lean Six Sigma Green Belt Deliver Speed, Value, and Satisfaction. I would like to begin by acknowledging that Dalhousie University is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. We are all treaty people. And I would like to welcome Angela Scammell to our webinar today. She will be walking us through the next 30 minutes and telling us lots of wonderful things about Lean Six Sigma and how it can be used to benefit our organizations. So Angela has 30 years experience designing and facilitating organization development initiatives and training in private, public, consulting, and academic organizations. As a General Electric trained Six Sigma Black Belt, she has significant project management and change management experience and a suite of skills in business process improvement, qualitative and quantitative research and analysis. Angela teaches the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt program at Dalhousie University and also teaches courses in Dalhousie's Quality Management Certificate program. So welcome, Angela. Thanks very much. And I will pass it over to you.
Thanks, Mary Eleanor, and welcome everybody. I'm really glad you decided to join us today. We're going to talk about Lean Six Sigma, and in particular what green belts can do to deliver speed, value, and satisfaction to customers within their organizations and external to their organizations. I'm really glad that you're here, and I welcome all of your questions at the end, whether you're already a seasoned Lean Six Sigma professional, or if really you just heard an interesting title to a webinar and thought you'd like to find out more about it. There's room for everyone in all of your questions today. I'd like to give you an overview of what Six Sigma is and how it works. I'll share a few project examples with you. And the reason that I would like to do this today is because, as you probably read in the webinar description, organization can't solve today's problems using tools that might have worked yesterday. And when we're looking at modern problem-solving tools, there are three questions that I think are essential. First of all, is the tool that you're using based on data and evidence? Does it give you feedback in terms of how what you're doing for the customer is actually working from the customer's point of view? Do you have data that your organization collects about your processes, not just about the customers, but also about the customers, that can be used to analyze your process or analyze your problem and give you more insight into it? Second of all, it would not be a modern problem-solving tool unless it was also collaborative. Employees have a wealth of intuitive knowledge, process-based knowledge, and learned experience that any modern problem-solving effort really needs to take into consideration. Without doing that, the problem-solving solution itself won't be as effective. And second of all, people will be less likely to actually make use of it. And third of all, when we take a data-based collaborative approach, is the problem-solving tool effective? Does it actually solve the problem and keep it solved over the long run? So that's what we're going to look at today. Lean Six Sigma can help you to do that. And in particular, we're going to look at how something called DMAIC, which is the problem-solving method of Lean Six Sigma, how it improves customer satisfaction. We'll look at how green belts can leverage hard data and employee knowledge together to solve problems. We'll look at some applications in service, manufacturing, and government organizations, some that I've personally been involved in. And as Mary Eleanor referred to, we'll look at how to become a Lean Six Sigma Black or Green Belt by summer of 2021. So let me start with the most basic statement, is that organizations produce things for customers. Those customers, when we think of customers, we're usually thinking about people outside of the organization, our ultimate customer, the people who might buy our products or be the ultimate users of the things that we do. However, there are often many what we call internal customers along the way. So if my colleague needs a piece of information from me so that she can serve the external customer, that colleague is actually my customer. And the faster I can give her that information and the more accurately I can do it, the better our ultimate customer is served. So when we say that organizations produce things, they produce different things. We might have organizations that produce products like Crosby's Molasses. We might have products that produce services, such as Eastlink, who provides us with our cable services, telephone services, security services, and others. Governments produce things, most often services such as at this time of year, a plowed roadway or garbage collection or supervised family visits. They provide a wide range of services. And finally, the military also provides services. It might be, one military service might be a radar analysis of the surrounding area, seeing what other ships are in the area. But also they provide ultimately security and freedom to the Canadian public. So organizations produce things for customers. They might be products or services, and there's a very wide range of what might be produced.
Hi, Angela. I'm sorry to interject. I just wanted to make sure that the slides are working well for you if you're moving through them. I seem to only be seeing the introductory slides, so I just wanted to kind of pop in.
Okay, let's try that again. I was merrily going along thinking that you could see my slides. What do you see now, Mary Eleanor?
Okay, I see the gentleman with an axe moving
with the old-fashioned tool. Okay, I'm going to progress. Can you see the objective slide now?
Yes. Yeah,
terrific.
That's great.
Okay, sorry about that. I won't make you look at all my slides again or tell you about them.
Thanks, Angela.
See, I have pictures of products and services here. So when we produce products and services for customers, ultimately our customers are looking for a combination of quality, speed, and cost that meets their needs. And there's an old joke about this three-legged stool, and that is you can pick any two you want. Well, with Lean Six Sigma, I say fully to that, let's pick all three. The catch is we really have to understand what the customer wants and what their priorities are. And we need to know it from the customer's point of view, not just what we think they should accept. So if I was Eastlink and I was providing internet service, I would need to know what my customer's definition of fast enough internet speed is, and not just say, well, we can produce it this fast, and customers who want faster than that, well, they're just not being realistic. In Lean Six Sigma, we start by understanding the customer's definition of quality, speed, and cost. And we work toward that regardless of whether we actually have the know-how at the outset for how we can do that. Lean Six Sigma provides the tools to figure that out. How is the customer's definition of quality, speed, and cost changing over time? I can guarantee you that what was fast enough internet speed 10 years ago would not be fast enough now. When I bought my car previous to the one I have now, the big selling feature was, well, one of them, was the big wowie feature was that it had a 6 CD changer. And I hope you're all laughing at your homes right now, because today a 6 CD changer would be something that you'd want to get rid of, not something that would say, wow, that thing's really advanced. Now, that's not my current car, just in case you're worried about me on the highways. So customers define what they want. It's not up to us to define it for them. Customer needs change over time, and they tend to escalate over time. We then have to say, okay, based on what our customer actually wants, what do we actually do on purpose that guarantees the customers will get what they want? And once again, if we don't have the perfect answer to that, Lean Six Sigma can help us to figure it out. How do we know that customers are getting what they want? Do we collect data for that? Do we have hard evidence? And how do we make it so that our processes make it impossible for our efforts to miss the customer's goals? And if you can answer these questions effectively, you either already have Lean Six Sigma or you might not need it. But I would say that the most reliable way of getting great quality answers to these questions is to use Lean Six Sigma to get there. When organizations want to reliably provide a product or services to customers that meet customers' goals, they need business processes. And business processes kind of like function like roadmaps for employees and customers alike. They tell us what are the most reliable steps we can take to get to the destination. And just like real roadmaps, as the one I have on my screen, some roadmaps are better than others. And in fact, many organizations find that their roadmaps look a little bit more like this. There are telephone poles stuck in the middle of the road. This is a real picture that was taken in Canada in 2012. And this situation persisted for about 3 months. It's just mind-boggling. Business processes can be like that too, where we take great people, we train them to do a great job, but we put them in a process. We ask them to use processes to deliver customer needs. And from the employee's point of view, there can be a lot of telephone poles built into that roadmap. And as Edward Deming says, who's one of the quality gurus of the world, as he says, and rightfully so, if you take great people, but put them in a poorly designed business process, eventually the process is going to win every time. My hunch is that if you leave this telephone pole here long enough, it's only a matter of time till someone hits it. And it's generally the driver or the employee that gets blamed when things go wrong. What we need to do is step back and say, how good is the process that we've asked the employee to follow? When we look at our business processes, we can see them from at least 3 perspectives. The first perspective is sort of what everybody thinks the process is. Oh yeah, we make widgets, or we provide internet service. This is how we do it. But I can assure you, based on practical experience, that this process that might live in a binder somewhere or in the minds of employees, it's usually just a fantasy. And when you bring the people together that actually work in that business process, and you put them together and get them to say what really happens, you will often find out that what you thought was a relatively simple process is actually a lot more complicated with a lot more telephone poles in it. And remember, where employees experience frustration or barriers or roadblocks, your customer, your ultimate customer, will also experience those same delays or cost increases or defects. So the employee perspective and the customer perspective are actually inextricably linked. We like to say what's good for employees, what's good for customers, they might be very different. In Lean Six Sigma, we throw that away and we say, what's good? It's usually what's good for both. The third version of the process is what it could be. And usually intuition alone isn't enough to figure that out. So how do we do it? Well, first of all, we acknowledge that over time, what might have started off as a simple road and then got some telephone poles in it, over time, processes tend to become more and more complex. People put more checkpoints into it. They require more signatures. They require more forms. They require more checking, more data, more information, and it can become a little overwhelming and, ironically, less effective. When people use just intuition to try to get to the root cause of problems, it doesn't work very well. And I've chosen one of many examples to illustrate this. What I'm about to tell you is true. Research consistently does show that the bigger the hospital is, the higher the death rate, the percentage of patient death within that facility. And at first glance, someone might say, looking at it from a cause and effect point of view, gosh, it sounds like big hospitals aren't very effective. The care at big hospitals must be very poor, and that probably explains why there's a higher death rate. Now, that's not the case, and because this is a short webinar today, I won't make you guess what the true answer is. I'll just share it with you. In fact, larger hospitals are usually regional facilities that are fed by smaller facilities with the cases that are most difficult to resolve, where people are actually sicker, and that is actually the reason why the death rate increases. Why am I talking about that in a Lean Six Sigma seminar? because great problem solving is based partly on hunches from employees based on what they see in the process. It's also based on statistical data analysis, where we check out and verify employee hunches to make sure that we can validate them. And there's this iterative process. It's like a conversation between employees who work in the process and the statistics or the data, the hard data that describes what's actually going on in the process. And in Lean Six Sigma, the reason why it's so good is because it's the product of those two things working hand in glove. Research done into business process improvement has shown that employee insights themselves are not enough. It's also shown that having hard data and doing data analysis alone is not enough. It will get you so far down the road to delivering what customers want. But when you put the two together, the effectiveness increases exponentially. So when we do Lean Six Sigma projects, we create a small team of employees who work directly in the process. We collect data about the process, and the green belt or the black belt leading the project facilitates an ongoing conversation within that DMAIC model that I'll share with you in a moment to get the best results out of both of those sources of key information. I showed you how intuition and cause and effect thinking is enough. Now I'd like to show you how data alone isn't enough. Imagine that there are 4 offices delivering service to customers. There's the north, south, east, and west offices. And we've done our homework. We found out that customers are willing to wait for service for 24 minutes before they get upset, before they start to get cranky. It's a service that they're willing to wait 24 minutes for. Now, if I were to ask you, as a customer, which office would you prefer to go to? Like most people, you'd probably take a look at these average waiting times and pick the one with the lowest wait time. And in fact, the south office, the average wait time is only 12.5 minutes, whereas the north office has a wait time of 20.5 minutes on average. And if I were to say which of those offices would you prefer to go to and wait at, like most really smart people, you'd say this one, the south one, is the best. The statistical analysis tools that we use in Lean Six Sigma can help you throw that kind of thinking on its head. And one of the things that we say in Lean Six Sigma is that averages are not enough. If we take a look at data about real wait times at those 2 offices, we might find that the north, which actually has the longest average wait time, when we put a line in the sand at the 24-minute mark, and we say how many customers had to wait longer than 24 minutes, we might find that none of them waited longer than 24 minutes. The average was longer, but no customer had to wait longer than the time they said they were willing to wait. And the south office, which actually had the lowest average wait time, actually experiences 10% of the customers having to wait longer than their specified maximum value. And in Lean Six Sigma, we use statistical software called Minitab to create graphs and numerical analysis for us, statistical analysis for us. You will not do the math yourself. I will show you all the equations for those of you who really enjoy doing the math. If you are considering signing up for Lean Six Sigma Green Belt training, you don't have to worry about the math. It's really about understanding logical cause and effect relationships and using data to see them. And the math and the graphs will get produced for you in a matter of seconds. It's really quite exciting. The DMAIC methodology that I've referred to has 5 stages. So if you become a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt and you lead a project, you will lead your team through 5 key stages: define, measure, analyze, improve, control. And you can see from that where the acronym DMAIC comes from. At the define stage, we actually find out what our customer expectations are in terms of speed, quality, and cost. We don't shy away from them. We actually go find out because maybe your organization has never really asked. Maybe it's been a few years since you've asked and customer expectations may have changed. Or maybe your organization has had a habit of saying, this is the best we can do, there's no point in asking. In Lean Six Sigma, I'll encourage you to ask anyway, because you never know what you can do until you've got a really exciting target to hit. We also do some more work inside the organization to scope the project, to understand a little bit more about it, and we write a project charter that determines our course of action through the DMAIC process. At the measure stage, we map the current process and we use the ugly version of the 3 versions I've shown you. We try to find out what's really going on. What does it really take to deliver this product or service to the customer? We identify the size and nature of the gap and we set goals for the project outcome. And if the process is not functioning very well at the outset, we set a goal of reducing 90% of either the errors, the lateness, or the cost issues within one project. And if the project's already really quite good, we go for another 50% of those errors. So we set really challenging goals, and the exciting part is when we actually meet them. At the analyze stage, we really have that conversation between data and people to get to the true root causes of the quality, speed, and cost gaps. We also analyze what's called the value stream, and we look for waste. And in the program, we talk a lot about waste and how to identify it and how to remove it. Waste is widely misunderstood, and it can be a real game changer to understand what waste is and how it impacts our processes. We also set priorities for what we're going to improve because we want to make sure that we get the biggest bang for our buck in terms of the investment of our time and energy in making things better. Sorry about that. At the improve stage, just like you would guess, we design the process based on what we learned at the analyze stage. We test it, we adjust it, and we create practical tools for employees and customers to use to make it easier and simpler to deal with the process itself so that fewer mistakes and fewer delays are encountered. At the control stage, which to me in many ways is the most exciting stage of a Six Sigma project, we figure out how to lock those results down so that they're sustainable over the long run, long after the project's over. One toolkit that we apply is called poka-yoke, and that is a Japanese phrase that means mistake proofing. How do we make it as close to impossible as we can for anyone to make a mistake, or for anyone to cause a delay, or for costs to overrun? And I'll show you a few examples of those poka-yokes in just a second. We also set up data-based early warning systems so that real employees working in the process have an early warning system for when the process improvements start to go off the rails. And we give them an action plan for how to get things back on track very quickly before customers even notice that things have changed. Some of our error-proofing mechanisms that we might use involve checklists so that employees don't forget steps that they need to take. We might set up systems that make sure that key tools don't get lost, and we can do this in an office environment as well. We might set up systems that ensure we don't connect things improperly. So in a hospital, we would really not want to provide vacuum suctioning when instead we should be providing oxygen to a patient. So there are poka-yokes that can make it impossible to hook up the wrong things to one another. We can set up poka-yokes that make sure we never run out of key materials. We can set poka-yokes that make sure that we've always got the right amount of material being given. And we can also set up poka-yokes that make sure that the right options are never chosen. And by doing simple, very cost-effective things like that to kind of put the icing on the cake of fixing the process and making it right, we can lock it down for long-term results. So Six Sigma, how good is it? How good are the results? Well, if the typos in a book were converted into Six Sigma kinds of thinking, here's what we'd see. At a 4 Sigma level of quality, we'd have one typo every 30 pages in a book. But at Six Sigma level of quality, we'd have one typo in one word in a small library full of books. If we were looking at patients that go missing in hospitals, and yes, they actually do go missing in hospitals, at a 1 Sigma level of quality, we'd have 3.5 patients going missing every hour. At a 6 Sigma level of quality, we'd have one patient missing every 7 years. The thing I'd like you to consider is, what does your organization produce for customers? And how good is it? And how good could it be? Because 5 and 6 Sigma are truly achievable with a structured approach. In Atlantic Canada, government organizations have used Six Sigma, and I'm not going to out which government organization produced the results on my screen, but these results were produced in the last few years within Atlantic Canada by one of our governments. The routine wait time for ECGs was reduced in one province from 22 weeks down to 4 weeks. And 4 weeks is still a long time to wait, but it's a lot better than 22 weeks. This was just on the first project. Subsequent projects can continue to reduce that. Bank interest, which doesn't benefit anybody except the bank, reduced by $719,000 in the first year. Asphalt leveling, which we all experience as customers of governments when we're sitting on the road waiting with someone holding a sign to let us go through. They changed their per project results from 3 months down to 2. So that's a 1/3 reduction in time and a $453,000 reduction as well. So in terms of, my organization produces services, can Six Sigma benefit me? Absolutely. Other DMAIC projects that I've led and been involved with, I did a project for an energy utility where we significantly reduced the amount of time it took to get energy flowing into the customer's home once they called the utility and said, we'd like a hookup. And as you can imagine, that has a huge impact on customer satisfaction as well as on profitability for the utility itself. In a transportation company, I helped improve paycheck accuracy. A new HR system was purchased and employees started getting $1 million paychecks, $0 paychecks, or no paycheck at all, kind of like the Phoenix system that you hear about in the federal government. So that, as you can imagine, was very important to employee satisfaction and willingness to deliver services to customers. In a food manufacturing organization, I helped them reduce temporary product misplacement in a warehouse the size of a football field, and subsequent stale dating, which meant that they would have to destroy the food products because the expiry date had passed. In a healthcare organization, I helped to reduce the time required to produce an evidence-based national healthcare standard from 2 years down to 1 year, which has a huge impact on wellness across Canada and internationally when you consider that if it takes 2 years to deliver a healthcare standard, it's going to be stale dated by the time it's delivered. Our training that's coming up begins on April 1st, goes till June 29th. We've got live and interactive classes from 11 to 2:30, mostly on Fridays. There is a Thursday or a Tuesday as well in there. There will be, in addition to the live classes, reading, online quizzes, assignments, and we do this for in-house programs as well. In fact, right now we're actually doing a live virtual in-house program with an organization in Prince Edward Island. If you've got questions, we would love to take some of them now, but if you'd like to follow up, you can contact me directly to ask questions about course content, and Julie Webb is the person at DAL who can help you sign up for the course and help you with any questions about logistics. Mary Eleanor?
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Angela. That was a great overview. And as Angela said, happy to answer any questions. I did include a link to the course in the chat here, so you can find any other details there. We will be sending out at the end of the day a link to the recording of this webinar that will be housed on our YouTube channel, as well as this link, this course link again. And so as well as the contact information if you didn't have a chance to jot it down. So I'll just pause here for a minute and just wait for any questions.
You can ask anything.
Okay, I don't see any questions come through, which is wonderful. I suspect you probably covered them all, Angela. So, and people will likely go away and consider and read a little bit more. So, oh, there's just one person here saying hello. Hello, do you have a question?
Hello.
Is it Alberto? If you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat here. The cost of the program. Oh, that's a great question. So the cost of the program is $3,995, and that is in the link that I have in the chat there.
And
so
that includes the cost of your certification exam as well, which many programs don't include.
And there's a question here from Lee, Angela. How can I get Six Sigma to work with a charitable organization?
Absolutely. It is not, it's directly applicable to the work of the charity. I could give you more detail. I see that you're working with Agile. What Agile does is it tends to speed things up, and it tends to look at the most value-added next step that can be done. With Lean Six Sigma, the real value add comes on the Six Sigma side. It's about making sure that you're doing the right thing and that you're aiming it at your customer needs. So thinking back to the beginning of an Agile project when you're trying to figure out what your customers need and you're setting goals for each iteration along the way as you progress through the project, the Lean Six Sigma approach can provide you with a data-based way of analyzing the choices that you're making and the impacts that they're having. So what you'll find is that Lean Six Sigma and Agile are actually very good friends or good cousins. And I should mention I am a project management professional as well, so I'm quite familiar with Agile and waterfall flows as well. I can assure you that they work really well together. If you would like to know more, don't hesitate to follow up. Mary Ellen?
And a really good question here. How do you convince people this is a good idea? You know, some people may not be entirely convinced that Lean Six Sigma would be of value. So what might you say to that, Angela?
I always say that the easiest way is to let the numbers speak for themselves, but many organizations don't have the numbers that allow them to do that. If you're able to receive permission to engage a customer survey or do a focus group, sometimes the folks at the top of organizations who have the decision-making authority over things such as Lean Six Sigma can be really convinced when they hear the kinds of stories that their customers are experiencing. And that might speak to them more than an average number of satisfied customers or 92% satisfied, that sort of thing would. I think also a great time to raise it is when your organization is experiencing problems that tend to recycle and come back. One organization I worked in prior to learning about Lean Six Sigma, on-time service was a really important goal in that organization. And about every 6 months or so, the executive team would pull the managers into a room and say, we've really got to get on top of this. What can we do? And we would brainstorm and we would get really excited. And we would go away and we would try some things. And 6 months later, we'd be back in that same room having that exact same conversation. So if you can't get hard data, if it's tough to get data from your customer, a third option is to ask yourself, do we have problems that keep coming back to haunt us even though we think that we've solved them? Because that points to perhaps not getting to the correct root cause. And Lean Six Sigma can really help you with that. It can help you also to get at your speed issues, your schedule issues, by removing steps that look like they might be valuable, but really don't serve the customer or the organization when you start to look at it with fresh eyes. So I know that's a general answer, but I would suggest that as a option. And perhaps Mary Eleanor, one thing I can give to you to send to everyone, I have a list of 13 symptoms of a broken process, and it can be used as a checklist. It's really easy to follow, and that might be a great way to, you know, take a look at one of your processes and perhaps set up a meeting with someone with some decision-making authority and say, look, I looked at our process for doing this thing. Here's what I see. What do you see? So it might be
that would be really helpful.
Going. Absolutely. I'm happy to share.
And Lee is excited to get that information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree, Tony. It would be great to have. 100%. So I recognize that we're just a few minutes over time, and we do have lots of people that are still hanging on, which is great.
Lee says you have no idea.
I know.
Lee, oh, I do.
You're probably
but I'm glad you're seeing it that way, right? Because when you start to see that and you've got a great toolkit, you can really do something about it.
Wow, that's quite a visual.
I don't have that in my slide deck.
Yeah. Okay, well, this was wonderful, Angela. Thanks very much for taking the time to walk us through this webinar. I really appreciate it. And
my pleasure.
We'll make sure that we have that document in our email follow-up that we'll be sending out later today. So keep an eye on your inboxes for that. Thanks again, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.